All right. Hey guys, Angelina here. Hope everyone is doing well this evening. It's getting darker sooner. So, as
All right,
always,
hey guys, Angelina here.
let me turn it off.
Hope everyone is doing.
If you hear that layover, for all of those who don't know, when you're streaming, you have to connect your streaming system to Instagram. Instagram, of course, isn't connected at the same time, which is why if you're joining us, it has a layover before we get started. We have to wait like a minute or so for Instagram to pick it up. And so that's what you heard in the background. But we're live on Instagram. Guys, we have a very special guest that's joining us today. We have the lovely Mayor Nell Degenhart of Degenhart and Degenhart Law LLC. Hey, she is one of the top attorneys here in this area that deals with commercial and also real estate. She actually, and I found her, so I'm gonna let her go ahead and tell us some things about herself. But she is also a lovely duo. Her and her husband are both in a law firm together. They both own a firm and both practice in different parts. I've met Marinelle. Oh my goodness, Marinelle. It's been about what 4 or 5 years now. Yeah, it's been about 4 or 5 years now.
It
I
has.
met her through Ron. We've had on here a couple of times. Ron introduced me to Marinelle. And if you're looking for an attorney who knows those laws, and I'll tell you one of the things that I like, Marinelle, you probably don't remember this. Guys, I had an investor who was buying a home, and Marinelle, when we was going over doing the closing, there was some information that the investor loan was requiring. And keep in mind, I'm representing the buyer, so it's not a seller giving us any problems. I'm representing the buyer, which is the investor. There was something on his mortgage that I think it pertained to where it was going to be issues with foreclosing, possibly, but it wasn't the right verbiage, and she didn't feel comfortable with it. And you know what? She stopped that closing until they changed that paperwork. I don't know if you remember that. You remember that? It was years ago. She says, no, this is what you need to do. And she made sure that she had that paperwork removed. That is the type of attorney that you have over here to my right. That's right. So, Marinette, I just wanted to bring that out, but I want you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do and things.
Uh, you're welcome. Hi, I graduated from law school here in Columbia, and I've been here ever since. And prior to becoming an attorney, I was a flight attendant for 15 years with Old Piedmont. Ended up as U.S. Airways when I left. And actually, I went to law school while I was flying at the same time, and I graduated. And I still did both. I was practicing law part time. And then after 4 years, I met my husband. He said, I think just one job might be enough. And I said, okay. So I took a leave from took a leave from flying. And I guess I've been in law ever since. And my husband and I work together, and he works in a deal. He does a lot of business transactions, and he does family law. Whereas I stay in my lane with the real estate, commercial, and residential.
Well, awesome. Well, I'm glad you make that choice that you chose to get into this because, guys, Marinelle's helping a lot of our clientele in regards to home ownership, and we're just very grateful for you. So thank you so very much. And I've been nagging her for the longest to get her on here. I kind of harassing her so she could come on. Because one of the things, and guys, I like to get started. As you know, we are live, so I like to introduce that we're live. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. You can put in the chat. I'm able to see it, and I'll be able to ask Marinelle. But I do, as you guys know, I love to start off with my disclosures, my disclaimers. We are by no means giving you legal advice. We are only speaking about situations that we have dealt with on case-by-case basis. Should you decide that you need to have a little bit more, if you want to talk to Marinelle about more of doing a consultation, as always, I'll put the information at the end for you to be able to contact her directly. Okay? All right. So, Marinelle, so as you guys know, we're talking about who owns your house. And I really felt that it was important to start talking about this because we're having more and more people it used to be a little bit simple that most time people who own the house together, they either was family or about to become family with, becoming, and now we're starting to see a lot of people buying homes together as if they were getting an apartment together, so to speak, and so because of the fact because you may have now, especially with interest rates going up high, you may have 2-3 people on loan easily, because they're looking at it like, hey, instead of us renting, let's go purchase a home together. Well, when you do that, getting out of a house is completely different from getting out of a lease. So we just felt it was best that people understand that, and just for things that you want to go on. And so, as you all know, I kind of always set this up as a conversation. And so now I would like for you to explain to people, what does it mean to actually own your home from a legal perspective?
Well, when you own your home, someone has conveyed it by a deed, a general warranty deed, a quitclaim deed, a deed of distribution, and you are the grantee. And the document that conveys the property to you will be recorded in the county where the property is located. And that document is that is your title or your deed, however you want to refer to it, but that's your deed to the home.
Okay, awesome. And that's, guys, a lot of people also, that's a public record, so you can look it up.
Yeah, you can go to there and pick it up. And I find, Angelina, that some people they get confused because and I guess it's kind of like the old school, but they think that, okay, I don't own it because I have a mortgage on it. You do own it. The mortgage is only a lien against the property. So and some people think, well, I don't own it. I say, yes, you do. You have a recorded deed. You just have a lien against it.
And so also with that, when they go through and take a look at that, once the mortgage is off of there, does that change anything when it comes to the deed once the mortgage has been paid off?
No, there's no changes. There's no changes to the deed at all. Once the mortgage is paid, that's just a separate document, and that document, the mortgage itself, will be satisfied at the county.
And that's public record too, guys, that you could be able to find. And sometimes when you brought up that about satisfied, it's been a lot of times where we don't see those mortgages being satisfied too, especially if you have like a down payment assistance program that's there, mobile homes. You normally have to kind of search for those all the time once they get satisfied. Because I've dealt with a couple of mobile homes where, the attorney afterwards has, we're trying to find out where that mortgage is, and the mortgage company will send them to the DMV, and the DMV is like, we don't have it because it's been satisfied.
That's true. You have to chase it. I mean, and it happens even with regular mortgages, or I know with titles to mobile home, the DMV, they hold the lien, and somehow the lenders they sell the loans and they lose the title. But even with just the mortgages, there's unsatisfied mortgages, and that's one of the common issues. One of the common title issues is having the unsatisfied mortgages. If it was paid off 10 years ago and it wasn't satisfied, it kind of presents a problem, especially if you paid it off and it wasn't through a refinance. Then you paid it off, so it didn't get satisfied, which is the lender's responsibility to have it satisfied. But if they didn't satisfy it, and 10 years later, that lender's not even available to satisfy it, and you have to find who has the records of that lender to get it satisfied. But if it was something with a refinance and there was not a satisfied mortgage, say an attorney closed the refinance for you, and for some reason that mortgage did not get satisfied, although it was paid off, it just didn't get satisfied. And even a few years down the road, or 10 years, if that attorney is still around and they satisfied through a closing, we now have, through the laws that have passed, we can do an attorney satisfaction if we have the record. So that's very helpful now. But some of the older ones, it can be difficult.
Yeah, we would come across that when it came to older mobile homes. I forgot the year, what was it, 2000 when they started recording or something like that, but anything prior to 2000, I can't remember the exact date, made it hard and difficult if you had a mobile home that was satisfied to be able to find the yeah, I've had a couple of those.
Well, and mobile homes, when we have mobile homes here in South Carolina, we have, a lot of modular homes. And when you close on a mobile home, sometimes people go ahead and detitle on the front end, but if not, that you have a mobile home title, and then you have the deed to the property that you're placing the mobile home on. And once you satisfy that mobile home, then you've got a title over here that's satisfied that you've got to follow through to make sure. But the deed to the land you have, but then if you don't follow through with the mobile home and getting it satisfied, then you've got two different scenarios here, issues you have to deal with. But now that we have a lot of detitling, because lenders usually now will not finance a mobile home unless it's detitled, and that's a process in itself to get it detitled. But it's worth it because the title goes away, and then you have the deed to the property, and it becomes part of the property because it is part of the property, and that's part of the detitling process. It has to pass inspection that it is truly they are never to leave again from that piece of ground.
Well, and a lot of people, they don't want to do it because also they think, oh, my tax is going to go up. But the thing is that it actually increases the value of your property too. Once you have that mobile home attached to it, becomes actual true real estate. So now you can do it. You refinance if you want to. You can be able to sell it at a higher value. It's a lot of things that you could be able to do. And guys, if you try to figure out, if you do stay in a mobile home, you're trying to figure out if it's been tied to the property, like she stated. If you're only getting one tax bill, that's a quick little way. Normally, you get a tax bill from the DMV and county. If you're only getting one, and it includes both of it, then more likely it's turned into real estate because they'll do it without telling you. Honestly, well, they probably do tell you, but pay attention. I know I don't open the door about that.
Yeah,
so
I think it's important if you do have a mobile home to look into detitling it. I mean, there's a cost involved, but it's to me it's worth it in the end.
Exactly, it really is because it gives you a lot of options with your property because now you have a real estate asset versus they still, like you stated, it's hard for you to sell that mobile home because lenders want it to be, because lenders don't want to where they loan money and then the person can take the home and they're not pay the loan and just take the home and transfer it somewhere else. So that's another reason why they want to retire to the land, to make sure that it's like an extra layer of protection for them. And then also it allows, like I said, to be able to get refinancing and do other things, sell it for a higher price. It's just a lot better for you if you were to be able to do that. But again, you have to go through the process to be able to do it. Your home may already be, because nowadays with mobile homes, they're already kind of putting the skirting underneath there, tying them down and bricking them in, especially a newer one. So it may already be in the process to where it has already been attached to the land. So what are the different types, when we're talking about ownership, what are the different types of property ownerships and how do they affect homeowners?
Well, when you purchase it, I see more. It's more of a estate planning that you'll see the joint tenants would write a survivorship, and that's deeding it, for example, to a husband and wife, and it's deeded in both their names, and they are joint tenants with rights of survivorship, not tenants in common. And if something were to happen to the wife or the husband, it would automatically it would be in the name of the other spouse that's surviving, and it bypasses probate. And so that's a big step for a lot of people. And I see that now on the front end. And also if you may have a parent who's elderly, and for estate planning purposes, you may have a life estate, the mother or the father, you may have, or both of them, you may have given them life estates, and once they pass, it passes on to the person that's on the deed behind them.
And so in situations like this, what would you suggest that they go ahead and they get that sort of set up properly? Because we do have a lot of people now that are taking care of their parents. A lot of parents, I actually have a client where the father and son, excuse me, the father and mother purchased a home with the son. And so, unfortunately, the mother passed, unfortunately. And so that is something they made sure that they had the joint tenants of survivorship there. So that way her piece of the her interest in the property automatically was split between the father and the son at that moment. But are there anything that you do? I know a lot of times people do it at the signing of the contract, but is there anything else that they already own a property and they're now taking in their parents and things they could be able to partake in?
The life estates, you really have to look at each situation individually to see if it's going to work for them. Because if for some reason the mother's given a life estate and they're still living, but you get to a point and you need to sell the home, the person who has the life estate they have to sign the deed, the sale of the home. They still have ownership. So if they become incompetent, you've got to have your power of attorneys in place, or whatever you need, or guardianship. So each situation is different. So you just kind of have to analyze each one. There's no true way to say, well, if they're elderly, do that. You just can't do that. It wouldn't make any sense.
And we're having a lot of parents who if children are taking care of the parents in order to partake in those taxes, they're putting the parents on the deed to kind of help out, because it does take the taxes down. But I'm telling all these people to make sure that you get with an attorney to have everything set up properly, so that way everything, should anything happen or when, you don't have to worry about other siblings or other heirs coming in on your parents' property side, when really technically the home belongs to you and you just brought your family member on to kind of assist, and you want that interest to go back to you and not having to go into an estate or probate or something like that because of those things. So
it would just depend on how the ownership was set up. I mean, if you put someone on a deed, they're on the deed. So you could, I tell you, it's like opening a can of worms. You put someone on a deed, and you just have to be very careful if you want to share ownership in that property with someone, because there's all kinds of issues that could arise.
And that's the thing, guys. When you're placing people on the deed, and a lot of times people are like, okay, I may not be on the mortgage, but I'm on the deed. If that person is on the deed, their judgments, their liens that could possibly be on there, tax liens, they have a tax lien, and it could be that person's no longer at the house and they've probably moved. But then when you're trying to sell the home, you still have to involve that person in all the negotiations, like she stated. As an agent, we're going to have to speak to them, and it doesn't matter if only on the note or the mortgage. If they're on that deed, we have to talk to them. And they just have to, in our eyes as agents, they have as much right to the paperwork and the information of the home as you do as well. And so that's kind of what we have to find out as far as what they. But should there be things that need to be contested, and that's when you can get attorney involved on that. But if you're trying to just sell it, regular sales, we're having to to still provide them with the paperwork. And another thing that we have to tell people too, Mary Nell, is that a lot of times people look for us to make a determination of how the interest should be split. We are not able as agents to give legal advice. So if there is a dispute in regards to how disbursement of proceeds are supposed to be in the property, we cannot advise that at all. And honestly, are you able to advise as a closing attorney? They have to get an order, correct? You can't make that determination if there's a dispute.
If you're going to divide it any differently, if there's two people on the deed, it's a 50-50 undivided interest. So if it's that's unless you have an agreement otherwise, or a written agreement between you. If you were to sell the home, one gets 25%, the other gets 75%. If it was set up, or if two people decided to buy a home together and they're not married, and they could do an agreement in advance as to how, well, I'm putting in 50% but you're putting in 50%. So we'll split 50-50 of any equity if we sell the home, or 25-75. But that's something you have to do on the front end. unless you can, because usually on the back end when you're selling something, and there's not always an agreeable situation. They're arguing over, who's going to get, and I've seen this, and I've dealt with it, but you bought it together, then all of a sudden it just didn't work out, so they're mad at each other, they don't like each other, and they're out to get each other, and it could go on and on.
So I've never heard of it. So you can actually be able to decide, like if me and another person went in and purchased a home, and I might have put, let's say I put 60% down, and so therefore I'm going to take 6% of the interest, the value, and they put 40% down. You can be able to write that up ahead of time. Is that something you do at the closing table, or how does that work? Does somebody be able to do that?
It's something to do ahead of time. It's an agreement signed by all parties, with full disclosure from both parties, about how they want to handle it. If that arises, if the situation arises that we split and go different ways, this is how we're going to handle it. It's a business deal. I mean, it's looking at just a business deal, whether you're married or not married. I mean, that's why you have prenups. Prenups come in and to play when people get married and it doesn't work out. 15 years down, we've got a prenup. This is what we agreed on the front end, and that's what we follow.
Can you contest that later on if you did that? Or you can. I guess you can try, but I guess it's going to be
contestable. Yeah, everything's contestable. I mean, whether you're going to win, it depends on how solid your agreement is.
Yeah. Because I guess you have to really show, well, what else did you do to be able to get this? That was my first time. And that's why I love doing these students, because we're able to have a conversational level where I never thought of things you could do that. And I can see people who may want to do investments, because you have a lot of people do investment groups. And it's like, hey, okay, we're going to do this. Your portion is this amount. My portion is this amount. Their portion is this. So when we sell, this is what everybody gets. You can't come in here and say, well, I went to Lowe's and got those extra toilets. So, like, no.
I did all the painting, so I need to get paid for my labor.
I did all the marketing. I showed the house, but you said something that was very profound that people don't think of. And I think because we look at it as if it's somewhere that we're personally laying our heads. At the end of the day, it's still a business deal, and it's sometimes one of the biggest business deals that people would normally do, because we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. I know people don't have it. Some people have it cash in hand to paying, but I guess sometimes because there's a mortgage on there that people don't think about, but it's literally you're dealing with hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so you want to be cautious of, if you're going in to purchase for somebody, first of all, who they are. If they kicked out of their apartment last time because they wasn't paying the rent, you want to make sure that not to say that you can, you can do background checks and things, but you want to make sure that they're showing you that, hey, this is something that I'm going to be able to do. If they don't have the history of paying everything on time and taking care of things, and they are constantly getting evicted from their own rentals properties, you may not want to buy a house with them, or if you're willing to buy the house and rent it out to them, then that might be something you may want to do too. But I just, you have to just keep that in mind, because on the back end, when it doesn't work out, this is when you have to call someone like Nell to come and try to figure it out. And so, the law doesn't really protect when you do it. It's kind of clear and concise. If your name's on the property, it's your property. I think we might have lost her, but she's going to come back. I think we might have lost Nell, guys, but don't worry, she'll come back. And when she comes back in, I'll let her back into the studio. Another thing that we were talking about as well too is in regards to she talked about some of the issues that might come about. Guys, again, if you are having a property that is owned by yourself, and then you have a family member that may be living with you, elderly parent that you may have, and you do, or elder, and you're putting them on there to help with taxes, you got to make sure that you have those things in place. You got to make sure that you have it set up to where should anything happen, that your interest in that property reverts back to you and doesn't have to be subjected to probate or any of the heirs and things of that nature. I'm going to continue going on through. Guys, if you have questions, we are live. Please come on and ask whatever questions you may have. When we're talking about disputes with the property and disputes with ownership, again, that is the reason why you want to have an attorney when you're doing closings. And I'm going to wait till she comes back on, but sometimes when we're seeing things also that has not been satisfied, guys, when we talked about the satisfaction of mortgages, seller financing. There have been situations where, oh, there she goes.
Lost you.
Hey, there you go.
Just went blank.
It's okay. Well, guys, we got Marinelle back. Marinelle, thank you so much for coming back on. I was just talking to them about some of the things that I've seen where mortgages that have not been satisfied were seller financing. When people have seller financed a home, I had a situation where someone seller financed the house and they were selling the home, and the gentleman never got the satisfaction from when he did finish his seller financing. So matter of fact, I got that letter, I pulled that letter out. Oh my goodness. I was doing something. This letter is probably about 10 years old, but I literally had to reach out to the prior owner. And how I found the owner was the owner owned like a bait shop in Lexington or Pillion somewhere. And yes, that's all I had to go on.
Amazing that you could find the previous seller. That.
Well, the gentleman told me, he's like, hey, because I was the one listing the house. And guys, for you all to think the agents don't do stuff, this is the things we have to do. He was the one listing I was listing the house for him. And we got to the closing because his name was on the deed and everything. I don't have and guys, we don't have a way of knowing if mortgages have been satisfied as agents. That's kind of where the closing attorney comes in when they do title searches. And so there was a title search that was done, and the attorney's like, Angelina. Now, mind you, I had already worked the bank for a short sale. So this already was time. He's like, hey, Angelina, the mortgage was never satisfied for your owner. And so I asked him about who the person was because they had no idea how to get in touch with him either. And so he was like, well, Angelina, he owns a bait shop. So I found the name of the bait shop. I sent a letter introducing myself, telling him like, hey, I'm reaching out to you because we need to get satisfaction of this mortgage. The attorney, I told the attorney I was sending a letter to him. The attorney drafted up, what he needed to say. And I told him just to kind of reach out to them too as well. But yeah, that's what we did. And he sent it back to me. And I still have that letter because he mailed it back. Of the satisfaction. So we can be able to get it closed. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are the things that we have to find out. And it's important to kind of know these things that's going on with your property. Seller financing is one of them. And there's not an issue with seller financing until they're either trying to get a loan on the house or they're trying to sell the house. But we were talking about how can homeowners avoid, well, I think you kind of already talked about, well, I don't know, maybe you can't be like this. How can homeowners avoid disputes over property ownership, especially in cases of inheritance or joint ownership? I know we talked about before with regular joint, they could be able to just, state how they want it dispersed. But what about when you're dealing with a situation where you're inheriting property?
Well, if you inherit it, you're gonna get the property through either a will or, however, if there's no will involved, then you may be sharing ownership with 5 or 6 other heirs. So, but the deed of distribution will be done while they're probating the estate. And if that I can't stress that enough, if there's real property involved, and if there's no will, or if there is a will, that has to be probated. You have to probate it because that property is in the deceased person's name, and you have to get it out of their name and into the heirs so that it can be sold, or you can't. It's like locked up until you do the probate. And some people don't understand that, and they'll just 10 years. Oh, well, she died 10 years ago. We never probated it. It's still in that deceased person's name, and you can't. So you've got to open an estate. Even though it's old, you can still do it. But you just have. If there's real property involved, you have to probate.
And can you advise also kind of how where your role would come in at when people are having and with dealing with disputes over property ownership or title issues, the importance of that?
Well, I mean, if there's a dispute, it would show up in the chain of title. If someone's claiming ownership, if you're not in the chain of title on the deeds when they do the 40, 60-year search, while you'd have to argue, and it would be a lawsuit showing, well, I should have been on the deed, or well, then why didn't you correct it at that point? So I don't know that that's really an issue. But if you thought you were going to inherit something at that time, you could argue it with the probate court that you should have been an heir and you were left out. But that's really kind of, as far as ownership, it's going to show up in the chain of title, who the owners are and who the previous owners, unless there's a clerical error or something but if that's something that should have been corrected earlier.
Can you also, since we're talking about the ownership and especially when you guys are doing a title search, how that owner's policy comes into play in titles insurance? Because a lot of people always ask that when they come to the closing table and they see that amount. Well, do I have to have this? And I think they don't have to have the owner's one, but the titles one is the one that they really have to have, and the importance of why they really should have both of them if need to be.
Well, the lender is going to require title insurance up to the amount of the loan, and really, you're only paying for the difference in between the loan and what the sales price is, and it's worth it because if anything comes up later, a lien that was not disclosed or was misindexed at the county, the title insurance is going to cover that lien. You're going to put a claim against title insurance. So that's why I tell people it's always important to have that. And you just don't know, because you have a courthouse, you have county records, and you have humans working there. So there's room for clerical errors. But you don't know if there's with the gaps that with ownership and recordings, but you're covered with the title insurance, and it's worth it, because you're already paying for the lender's title insurance. And even if you're paying cash, I recommend getting the owner's title insurance, because it stays with you and the property as long as you own it. If it's 50 years, you have it for 50 years.
And that's a one-time fee, guys. It's not that you pay it every year. It's one time.
That's
like what, $100?
Yeah, it's whatever the amount is, and you, like I said, one-time fee, and it's yours. And you just keep it with your documents. And a lot of people say, I don't know who I had it with, but sometimes you can go back to the attorney who closed it, and they can look it up and tell you what company they wrote the title insurance with. Okay. But it's well worth it.
And when people are purchasing property, we always get asked too, well, Angelina, does it have to be somebody on here? If I wanted to add this person, like my children, on here, or this person on this property, does it matter? And I tell them, and you can let me know if I'm wrong or correct me, in regards to that you can have whoever you want to on your property, on the deed. Again, it's just knowing that once you put them on there, they're gonna own your property.
They're going to own it, and if you go to sell it, they're going to have to be part of the sale, and they're going to have to agree with them. And for instance, you put your 21-year-old son on there, and now he's mad at you, and he wants some money, so he's going to demand that you give him 50%, and you were only giving him trying to help him have a place to live for a while. So and whatever, if you put someone on and they get a judgment filed against them, for instance, say a huge hospital bill, $90,000 hospital bill judgment, and you want to sell that home, and they're one of the owners, you're going to have to deal with that to sell the home. You're going to have to negotiate it, pay it somehow, and that goes along with the Department of Revenue liens, tax liens, property taxes, all that's it's going to have to get paid. And it is negotiable in a lot of cases, but you still have to deal with it.
That's the thing. All those follow you. And so even if that person had those judgments prior to you put them on the deed, it's as soon as they see that, because again, guys, this is public record. And I don't know, you have these companies, they have attorneys and everybody working for them too. they're pulling those judicial records to see, is Angelina McFadden in here? Oh, she just bought this. Bam. She,
She got some property.
yeah, she has the property. Okay, we need to attach this hospital bill from 2010 on there when she, broke her leg or something that's still there. And if you don't, and that's the thing, you don't know, guys. I know it's bad. Like I'm so used to looking at judicial records. I used to go and look because you can see from traffic tickets and everything else on there. I would go on and just see like, okay, is there anything on here? Do I have anything that's trying to attach? And now I know people are not, and I do that, guys, because I used to deal with foreclosures, and so I'll do that to kind of check on properties, make sure nothing's going against them. But the average person is not going to go to judicial records. But the thing is, you have these companies who are looking to see if you have property because they know that right now property values have gone up. A lot of people are wanting to sell. So guess what they're going to do? They're going to check to see what do you have. They're typing away, and if they see that you have that judgment like she stated, and especially when it comes to the IRS and the South Carolina Department of Revenue, they definitely are checking. They're already linked with the guys. Just let you know. If you did not know, the Department of Revenue is already linked to Richland County. So when you go and file for primary residency, trust me, they get an alert too. Ooh, this person just purchased property. Did she pay on last year? She has not. She just owned this property with us at primary residency. And next thing you know, you get those notices in the mail. And I hate this. I mean, we're laughing, but that's what happens. I mean, am I wrong? I mean, that's what literally happens now.
And I just saw one in the last month where property changed ownership and Department of Revenue had a lien, and it was just a family member quit claiming it to another family member. Well, that lien just is still there it's still against the property. Now the new owner has to deal with it. So it's there. And Department of Revenue is looking to think, oh, does this new owner have some money that I can collect on?
Exactly. And something else that people don't think about, those citations through the county that turns into liens on the property. Like you have property, guys, let's say you may have a property and it's probably like an abandoned building or a vacant building, and you get down there every so often to cut the grass. They also too, you might have thought that bill, the county took it away or the city took it away. They just put that as a lien on your property. So when you're ready to finally sell the land, now all of a sudden that lien that you didn't, when you didn't cut the grass,
that $250 bill for mowing the grass is still there.
Yes. And how I know is because I have property. And sure enough, the person was out of state, and sure enough, we had a family member supposed to cut the grass. They did not. And sure enough, there was $1,000 bill that was attached to that. We didn't get it cut. So of course, it was just, I had to pay a couple $100s to get it cut. But guys, that's how much those things cost. And that's going to be attached to whoever is attached to that property and the owners of the property that they have. Oh my goodness. Well, Nell, so is there anything else that you would advise homeowners or just people in general who are looking to purchase real estate? One of the things they need to be cautious of when it comes to the deeds in their homes, titles, when it comes to, mobile homes and things that we need to be aware of.
No, and one thing that I've seen a little bit lately, it was a closing, and the seller had only owned the property for 2 years and was selling the property, but they had not gone to it was their primary residence, and they had not gone to the county and completed the paperwork for their primary residence. And she had no idea because her taxes were 6%. She thought they were supposed to be that high, and she had no idea. But just, make sure if you're purchasing a home that you complete the primary resident application and get it done, because there's a huge difference in the tax bill. But she was from up north, so it wasn't unusual for her to have a high tax bill, so she didn't think anything of it. And I just happened to point it out to her. But fortunately, it only been they will go back 2 years, and she could get reimbursed. So fortunately, she could do that, but she just didn't know because she was not, a high tax bill was something she was, accustomed to in Michigan. So in here, when she was just paying $6,000, she thought, oh, that's fine. I can do that.
And it's funny you bring that up because that's actually one of the segments I'm going to go over, since tax bills are now starting to generate in Richland County and across really, the state, to bring up how people need to check their tax bills, because there are a lot of people who don't realize they're getting taxed at that 6%. And not only certain counties, even if you go, let's say you get married and you change your name, or you get divorced and change your name, or you just feel like changing your name, guess what? They reverted back now 6%.
Every time you record a new deed or quit claim deed and add someone to your deed, you have got to go through the entire process again. So I don't care if you quit claiming it, you just got married and you want to add your husband to the deed. You go back through the entire process, because that just automatically they're going to put it at 6% until they get an application and process it. In fact, Lexington County tax bills for 2024 are out now as of yesterday.
All right, so guys in Lexington area, make sure you check your tax bills. Make sure they have you at 4%, not the 6%. And like I said, I'm going to do a segment. Hey, let me know if you want to join me there, Nell, because I'm going to do a segment to show the difference between, because some people think, oh, it's just 2%. Yes, 2%, but you're looking at 3 times as much taxes as what you normally pay. So that affects your mortgage. That affects so much. So I really want you all to pay attention to that, because nowadays, like I stated, the county's not going to call you up and say, hey, you just asked your husband, you need to come back and refile. No, they're just going to, here we go.
And some people that have investment property, they don't realize, why I didn't get a tax, say they own 5 or 6 properties, I didn't get a tax bill, and all of a sudden there are properties at the tax sale because they haven't paid taxes in 2 years. But when the deed is prepared, the portion of the deed there, so where it says grantee address, that address is used for the tax bills. So if you want your tax bills to go to, if you own investment property, but you want your tax bill to go to your office or go to your home address, make sure it's on that deed. The grantee address is just where you want the tax bill to go, so that you get the tax bill.
So, Mary, I hate to put you on the spot in front of all these people live, which because you're bringing up some great stuff that people don't think about. Whenever I have my tax segment, would you be willing, if your schedule permits, you don't have to answer now, but I would like to formally invite you in front of everybody to come back to when we do the tax segment, because I really want people to kind of see the difference of that, because we're having a lot of people who are going into foreclosure not knowing that, hey, it's your taxes. And there's times I've listed homes and I'm like, okay, why your tax bill so bad? They're like, my tax bill, what? I see. And you know what? When they're calling a mortgage company, oh, it's your homeowner's insurance. That's what they're telling them. It's your homeowner's insurance. The mortgage company is only automatically seeing the escrow account. They're just automatically thinking homeowner's insurance, but really it's their tax bill. And so I really would like to do a segment so people can kind of see that before this year ends, because you do have people who are going up for tax sale. Guys, Richland County's tax sale is the first, Monday, December? I think it's the first Monday in December. Guys, that's serious. So if you are needing assistance, and as you can tell, if you can't tell by the day, if you're needing assistance, period, when it comes to the legality part of things, please reach out to Mary Nell. Mary Nell, I'm going to put your information out here. I have it right here. Guys, you can contact Mary Nell at the phone number that's listed below, 803-771-6050. And this is her email address. And I did get permission before I put an email address. This is her actual email address on here. So guys, I don't know if you all are watching these Tuesday tune-ins, but you're getting really access to some very experienced people that's in this field that have been doing this for 20 plus years. And so this is why I love doing this, to be able to get it out to the masses of that you do have assistance out here. If you have properties and you're looking at trying to get your will set up, because you do probate too, correct? In estate planning, do you do that? Okay, so you got questions in regards to how you need to do that, All that ties in together. When you're talking about ownership and the deeds and how you want your titles to be set up, this is when you want to involve an attorney. I tell people all day, you know, I get it that we can Google it. I get that. I Google a lot of stuff. I get it that we can chat GPT it, AI, and hey, I do that all the time. Do that all the time. But when it comes to these types of matters here, we're talking about your properties, talking about your investments, you want to make sure that it's done right. And you need to have a human person who has gone to law school, which is to my right over here, has gone to law school that could be able to show you what the laws are and how you need to properly put those things in place. And so I got Mary Nell's information down here. Should you have any questions, guys, if you're looking at to purchasing the property, she does practice real estate as well. Real estate. Can't think of the word. She is a closing attorney for real estate as well as for commercial property too. Please keep her in mind. I love working with her and her staff. Mary Nell, I thank you so very much for coming on and sharing all your expertise and especially on this cold Thursday. Today's Tuesday. See, my week's flying by already. This cool Tuesday. Mary Nell, I would love to have you back. Open invitation whenever you would like to discuss things, even if there's certain changes that you know of as a closing attorney that you would like to get out to the masses. Please do not hesitate to reach out to me. Whatever we can do it's all about making sure that people just know more about what's going on. And we did have some comments today. We had Betty Bird who let us know. She said great information. So thank you so much. People are paying attention and we're seeing things. Guys, I'm going to put down Mary Nell's contact information. As always, if you joined on late and you wanted to catch the beginning of this, guys, I always have these streamed to my YouTube page, which is Deals with Angie on YouTube. You can catch all the Tuesday tune-ins. If you don't want to scroll through Facebook, like I don't like scroll through Facebook, you could go directly to the Deals with Angie YouTube page and see all of them. And also join us next Tuesday tune in. We are live at 7 p.m. every night. And guys, and Mary Nell, again, you can tell me when we get off of here if you're going to come back for my tax my tax segment. But I definitely would like to have you on again just to talk about things as we come about. All right. Well, anything else, Mary Nell, before I let you go this evening?
I enjoyed it. I love helping people. I'm a people person. So, if I know something that could help you along the way or make your life easier, I'm glad to do it. But I enjoyed talking with you and talking to your people out there.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much. And guys, Mary Nell, if you ever hear the legal advice, she actually is an avid watcher of my tune-in. So she actually puts in a lot of legal advice.
I've got to pipe in every now and then.
Well, that means so much to me that you do that. I was like, oh, Mary Nell's on here. She gives us all legal advice. So if you've been on seeing illegal advice, this is the attorney that's doing that on my comment section. Guys, and as always, if you all are looking into the process of selling or need to purchase a home or wanting to start the process, just don't know where to begin, looking into getting to investments, please, I have my contact information down below too at 803-201-3391. And my email is at Angeline@dealswithangie. Or if you like to just go online, you can just go to www.dealswithangie.com. Okay. All right. Well, Mary Nell, I'm going to put yours back on here. I like to always end with that. Mm-hmm. All right, guys. So thank you so very much. And you all have a blessed evening.
Have a great evening, everyone.